I'm Melinda Jackson. This is Unhinged Founder. I am the founder of Melinda Jackson Public Relations. I've been in PR for like 16 years now. I have a Grammy, I have an Emmy, I have a bunch of PRSA awards. And this podcast is where we talk to my friends that are founders and we get unhinged and we get real and we have some fun. So today I have my dear friend Emily on. She's going to tell you all about herself, but she's a stylist. She has worked with Diane von Furstenberg. She's worked at The Real. She has worked with celebrities in both New York and LA, and now you can let her style you. So let's get into it. All right, Emily, introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Emily Burnette. I have spent the last 10 years of my life between New York and Los Angeles, working in fashion, and now I own a personal styling and color consulting business, which is focused on empowering women to go collect their coins, get to their respective bags, and I play a minor role in their image and their wardrobe.
I love it. Okay. Well, we'll get into it. We met at a retreat that I was at, and you were doing color consultations.
Yep.
I had never had one done. I am a winter. If I was at home at my desk, I have the little card. I keep it there because when I'm online shopping, I'm like, is this one of my colors? Is this it?
There you go.
And I know I've even texted you and made you send me the graphic just so I have on my phone because I'm like, is this what I'm supposed to be wearing? And so thank you for that because it's literally altered my brain where I'm not just wearing black all the time. Ignore what I'm wearing today. It's cold. Everyone shut up. But anyway, so we met there and we were talking about where we're both from, and you said Virginia, and I was like, she's my people. And so you've been my people it's our anniversary. This week is our anniversary. So we've been together for a year now. Congratulations to us. But yeah, I loved your energy, and even just doing the color on me, like that's changed my brain chemistry. So talk a little bit about like just that service, and then we'll get into your background and stuff, but just how important it is to know your colors and what all goes into that.
What an introduction. And yes, cheers to us for 1 year of friendship. Color analysis is nothing new. This has been around for 30 plus years. However, with, the rise of TikTok and social media, it's become more prevalent in the last 5 years or so. And what's funny about this is I always said I would never do color analysis. I was totally against it, and then I did it.
Probably felt like an old lady thing because normally it's a lot of old ladies doing it.
Yes, traditionally it was, and I didn't buy into this idea of what it was, and the more and more that I got into it, I was like, this is really fascinating, and there is so much truth and unveiling of misconceptions and perceptions of color and how we hold ourselves and how other people perceive us. So I preface that by saying getting a color analysis done or getting a color consultation done is really, truly like dipping your toes in the water before diving into personal styling. For me, it's just formative. It lays the foundation of not having to look at so many options. Once you know your colors, you're kind of good. You typically don't need to get another color analysis done. It just really provides you some guidelines and, in my opinion and in my experiences with clients, allows them to really try different colors that they would never have picked for themselves. And that's the beauty of it, is really just uncovering what really truly matches you, your natural coloring, your hair color, your eye color, your complexion, your natural features, harmoniously. And I think there's beauty in that. And then the psychology behind it is just what's even more fascinating for me.
Yeah, I think it's so cool. And I know you probably see it. I have seen a couple of friends who got their colors done and went full force down that road and like got rid of everything that wasn't that color and changed their hair color and everything. And sometimes it looks great. And then sometimes you're just like, what are you doing? I don't know if this is right, girl, because that hair is not it. Um, but like, I just think it's just so cool. I don't understand it whatsoever. How accurate are the filters on TikTok and Instagram where it has like the color wheel around you and it's like winter, spring, and you can figure out what your color is?
What a good question. To be honest, I haven't seen those, so I would have to look at
Okay.
it first. From my experience, um, I can speak more on like the Chat GPT
Hmm.
AI consultations. S- they're warm. I wouldn't say that they're hot. They're some of them are not warm. Some of them are not even remotely close to your natural
Yeah.
coloring. But can they give you a sense of what direction you're headed in? Yes, I do believe that there's a little bit of truth. I assume I'm just going off of that information that perhaps the ones that do have the filter where you put your face in the middle of it would be somewhat accurate. But as far as the personalization of getting a color analysis with a professional, you get what you pay for in a sense.
Yeah.
And what's unique about my role in this is that I'm a personal stylist first and then a color consultant. So it's wonderful to get your colors done, but it's like, well, what do I do with this information now? And sometimes it's information overload for clients where you have all of these newfound colors and you don't know how to integrate it into your wardrobe, or you do feel like you need to completely gut your closet. And I think that's where someone like myself comes in and kind of like guides you through the process. And I'm there with you during the color analysis, walking you through. It's super collaborative, asking you, what colors do you already wear? Why do you gravitate towards this one? Why do you never wear this color? So I do think there's beauty in having someone there with you as opposed to feeling overwhelmed or feeling like a daunting experience by doing it by yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like when people do those filters, like, maybe they can see a difference, but I can never see a difference when I try it, but then when I was there with you and you were physically putting the
Yeah.
sheets on me, I was like, "Okay, I can see the difference." Granted, we were also in the pitch black dark, but we figured it out, girls, we figured it out. Um
The lighting is important, that's for sure.
Yes. Yeah, I had my selfie light, like, trying, and then it died, and it
Yep.
was a whole thing, but we made it. We made it through the trenches, ladies. Okay, so tell us, what did baby Emily wanna be when she grew up, and then how you got into styling?
Little Emily has always been interested in fashion. And I always revert back to this story because I feel like it so encapsulates like me and permission to be me and to eventually find this path that I've paved for myself for the last 10 years. When I was probably, I don't know, roughly 5 or 6, I just remember doing multiple outfit changes in a day as a
Mhm.
child. And that to me is so silly, but speaks to my creative side and really, I feel like just allowed me to be open to expressing myself through fashion. And my mom allowed that to happen, which again is kind of like permitting me to be my full self. Um, with that being said, at that age, obviously I didn't know that there was such thing as a stylist or really anything. I think when I was growing up, it was still pretty unheard of that you would dress people for a living. And obviously you have fashion designers, you had interior designers. There was a lot of creative elements within um, that industry. But honestly, it just took like peeling the layers back of the metaphorical onion to decide what I wanted to do and in what capacity, like what was my medium, which was really female business owners and women in general and personal styling.
Yeah, and where you grew up and where I grew up, we didn't really have people that did what we're doing now,
Yep.
so I feel like we probably both just had to figure it out from watching TV.
Um, I remember, I remember watching What Not to Wear on
Mhm.
TLC. Stacy and Clinton, and thinking that that was kind of one of the first of the shows of its kind. And then you had like America's Next Top Model, and then you had like the really centered fashion shows. Now you have Queer Eye,
Mhm.
and so many other like the next America's Next Top Designer or Top Designer,
Yeah.
something like that. So you have a lot more visibility within the industry, I think, which is so fascinating. And obviously, The Devil Wears Prada, there's a lot of fashion movies that were made over the last 25 years. But yeah, it was kind of like, what do I do? Because I feel like this is a gift that I was given. Like I'm this vessel that's basically communicating this message and this gift to these clients. But how do I go from point A to point B? And honestly, it was just, yeah, taking in, outside factors and finding a university for me that had a program that I was interested in. And from there, here we are.
And how were your parents when you said, like, I want to go to school for fashion? Because when I told my parents I wanted to go to school for film, they said, girls, don't do that. We're not doing that. Figure out something else. You're going to be a teacher. So I went in to try to be a teacher and then quickly changed to communication. And they were fine with it because I told them I was going to do marketing and they knew what that meant. But how were your parents about the fashion of it all?
Okay, I kind of have a metaphor, which I feel like you would appreciate. Feel free to cut this out. But this is unhinged. Right now, there's this um, meme or theme going around on the internet that it's a flex to have liberal parents.
Mm-hmm.
And I resonate with that because I do. And I know that's a blessing in this day and age in the political climate. My analogy is this. My parents also allowed me to do whatever I wanted to do. I think they supported me and encouraged me and in a way had faith that I would figure it out. 10 years in, they're kind of like, "Are you sure you want to do this now?" Like it's a fickle job, if you will, depending on where you live and who you service and geographic markets and price points and incomes, all of that stuff. Entrepreneurship and self-employment is not for the faint of heart, as you know. But getting into it, they literally, there was no pushback. And I think to me, like, that's such a blessing of faith in the child that they molded in a way. So
Yeah. I
they
mean,
they didn't turn their nose up.
I wish I would have had liberal parents. Are you joking? Like, even when I moved to California and then being in North Carolina, they were always like, go back to your country. It's its own country over there. And I'm like, okay. And they say it
Yeah.
now, go back to your own country. I'm like, oh my God, California needs to be its own country. But
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'm glad that you had supportive parents. And that probably gave you so much confidence that I didn't have because I
Mhm.
had to do everything out of, I'm going to prove everyone wrong. You
Yeah.
probably had the confidence of, hey, if something happens, my family has my back.
To an extent, I think what we're not really touching on, whether or not you have a supportive family or not, is like, even just regardless of how niche your career and my career is in the grand scheme of things, it's not your typical run of the mill career, is that no one there's no one really in my family that I can relate to that's self-employed. And that's
Mm-hmm.
the real thing that is like, yes, I have supportive parents and a supportive family and ecosystem, but I'm still a founder and I'm still paving the way. So hopefully when and if I have children, if they want to become self-employed, they can look to me and they can ask me tax questions. They can ask
Mm-hmm.
me how to form an LLC, like all of the nitty-gritty business things. And I think that's something that is its own challenge when you think about working for yourself. And of course, to your point, even more of a challenge when you have naysayers around you, even if it's family or friends who don't believe that you can do it, or they doubt you, or they don't believe it's successful. And I will say, I think that speaks volumes about them and their own limitations and capabilities and their doubt in themselves, and it has nothing to do with us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I guess I've never even thought of it that way. So my parents are entrepreneurs, but like my dad still worked a corporate job and was an entrepreneur.
Mm,
And then my mom ran of her own businesses. And it was like there was always side hustles. There were always secondary, third, fourth,
yeah.
fifth ways of getting income because they had so much going on. And so that also gave me the confidence that where maybe I didn't get it from my parents directly, I had the confidence, I'd seen them do it. So now I know how to do the tax stuff. My mom literally did taxes for 20 years. So like
Wow.
I'm telling Jeremy how to do it. Everything's fine. But I think that's also where I probably have a leg up where a lot of people don't.
Yep.
And I mean, it's still lonely and I still don't want to ask them questions, but I'm like, well, if they can do it, I can do it, you know? So I guess I've never even thought of it that way. So I probably should, realize that that gives me a leg up in some ways.
I love that. And I'll just share a sentiment because you shared that. It's the same thing. I never even really thought about how much of a blessing and um benefit it was to have successful parent or supportive parents. Not that they weren't successful, but
I know what you mean.
supportive supportive parents when I did choose this path. I truly had never considered it up until 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. Well, there we are. Look at us. This is therapy. This is free therapy. Okay. So you go to school for fashion
Yep.
and then do you immediately move to the big city or what does that look like?
Yes. 2 weeks to the day, I graduated with a degree in fashion merchandising and retail marketing, and I moved to New York. I chased the name, I chased the city, I chased the dream. My first job out of college was a stylist with Diane von Furstenberg at her meatpacking flagship, which
Wrapping
was
all those
crazy.
dresses, girl. Wrapping those
We
dresses.
were we were wrapping the dresses we were selling. And I think it's kind of funny now in hindsight 10 years later to see that the first job out of college was a woman-owned brand and a woman who's so outspoken about um feminism and being a powerful woman who makes money. And then after that, I had little stints at Barney's New York. I helped open up personal shopping. I worked for The RealReal as a luxury consultant. I would go into clients' homes and tell them what to consign. And then the last job I held was a digital stylist with Neiman Marcus Group, both in New York and in Los Angeles. And then um, I had started assisting and interning for wholesale companies prior to that, and then during that, assisting personal and wardrobe stylists. And that's kind of how I really got into styling was through those connections and through those jobs that I met at Barney's. And realizing later on that I had always wanted to be a stylist, I was just a little scared to claim it. And when I uncovered that truth, I realized, okay, this is scary. This is how I know I'm on the right path. And um, as they say, the rest is kind of history.
I love it. And I can only imagine what it was like doing things in people's houses for at the real, like going into their houses. You're probably going into people that are in a certain tax bracket that is not the one that me and you are in. And like, you probably weren't making buckets of cash. And so how was that like going in and just like playing with rich people's stuff and being like, you should sell this, you can get thousands of dollars.
That was probably one of the coolest jobs I've ever had. When I was working for them, they were still a private held company, so everything was more family oriented. I worked on a small team that eventually tripled, and now I'm sure it's quadrupled. And um, the now CEO, she was really like in close proximity to me and my team. And our HQ was in New York, so I really got the best of the best while working there. I absolutely loved touring the warehouse that we had. I'm sure it's so different now, but the highlight of that job truly was the people. And I did not realize at the time who my clients were
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure not.
until much later. And this is something that I still should do now is Google people
Oh
because
yeah.
you have no idea who these people are and who they're connected to. I remember a lot of my clients were celebrity stylists and in New York. And I thought, I knew they were stylists. I had no idea who was on their roster. And I'm talking the biggest of the biggest, like singers, songwriters, public figures. That was really cool. The other thing I'll say about working for The Real Real was how incredible it was to see these homes. And you mentioned it. This is in New York. So I saw pretty much all of tri-state. I would see homes in Queens where you have these big, beautiful mansions, and then you have these like multi-story luxury apartment buildings in the city, and Brooklyn and Dumbo, like all over. I became super tight with the doormen because I was always there. And
Yeah.
I mean, I was transporting Rolexes, diamonds, designer handbags, designer shoes, clothing. I mean, it was really it was such a hustle. Like, it was such a hustle, but it was a really, really cool job. And I often think about, like, would I ever go back to that job? Because honestly, just experiencing it and meeting people was truly such a highlight. And it really allowed me to experience New York to the fullest because that job, I went everywhere on the subway and taxis and Ubers. The worst part were the expense reports,
Oh, yeah. I was going to
submitting
say,
my
because you
cars.
can't necessarily take a Rolex on the subway. Like, you can get there in the subway, but that probably feels a little weird being like, I have $10,000 or however much worth of
Yeah,
just shit in my bag right now. I can't just hop on a
yeah.
subway and hope everything's going to be okay.
Especially, I mean, at this point, this company, it was a large company. Now people know. So I think when you see someone, and again, I'm not sure of the process anymore, but honestly, we kind of flew under the radar a little bit. It's New York City. Everyone kind of keeps to themselves. It's like a constant but subtle hustle. So I think people respect that. But now I'm kind of like, yeah, I would be scared that someone would try to rob me based off of just knowing that this is authenticated luxury that I'm
Yeah.
carrying. So,
Do you like still keep in contact with any of those stylists that you worked with, or do you kind of kick yourself of like, oh my God, I wish I would have gotten tighter with them?
oh, that's such a good question. Um, I don't. I don't keep in touch with them. I follow them and I admire their work from afar, but I think at that point I was not styling, so I didn't
Yeah.
even think to keep in contact with them, that it would potentially be beneficial down the line. Certainly the industry is quite small, so if I wanted to, I'm sure I could reach out. I'm not sure that they would respond. But I think that's a good reminder, just as much as it is to Google people before you meet them, is um form the organic, natural relationships and keep in touch with people because you never know.
Yeah.
But even when I did that in New York and then moved to LA, I met a whole new bunch of people of the same caliber of celebrity stylists that allowed me to like kind of cut my teeth and really learn the ropes of that styling world.
So I never talk about this, but my first internship in LA was at a fashion PR firm that is now no longer. But that's on the tail end of the hills. So I literally moved to LA because I'd watched Laguna Beach and then I saw everyone on the hills. And I'm a year younger than like Lauren Conrad. So I'm the same age as Kristen Cavallari and all that stuff. So like as they're showing the seasons, it's while I'm also going through my senior year. And then they, are in college and they're all in LA. And so then I'm like, I want to move to LA. Like that's what I want to do. And I want to work in PR. And I got a fashion PR internship and I'm like, oh my God, I'm 2 blocks from Kelly Catron. Like, this is amazing. Like literally would pass her office every day. Like, this is the best ever.
People's
I knew fuck all about
revolution.
yeah, People's Revolution. I was right there at it, and I was like, "Oh my God, one day!" Like I literally wrote her a letter, like everything. And I um, I was not a fashion girly. Like, no, I'm a scene kid from Eastern North Carolina. Like, was not it. And there was so much stuff going on. I'm like, why do these people care so much? Like, why? And then, we're running the showroom during award show season. We're working with stylists. We're doing all that stuff. That part was so fun. But like, I had Aloe, like the yoga brand, 15 years ago. And now I see how blown up they are. I'm like, I should have stole stuff from the showroom. I didn't steal anything from the showroom because I was on a sample size. And people don't realize, I'm sure it's a little bit better today, but everything in a showroom is sample size. Like, there's no way I could have stolen anything. I was like at size 10, like, wasn't going to
Mhm.
happen. But all of that to say, my little fashion rant over. I feel like fashion in LA is probably vastly different than New York. Like, people, like, yes, it's a fashion place, but like, obviously it makes sense to me that you immediately moved to New York after college and
Yeah.
not LA first.
Yes. And I can speak to that, which is ultimately why I chose New York over LA, at least initially. I've obviously lived in both places now, but growing up in Virginia, I also thought California was a little far from home. I had not really flexed that muscle of wanting to be that far from what I knew to be home. Potentially bigger than that was my notion of what LA was, which after living there, I can confirm this to be true. Which is, and I'm gonna get hate from this, and I don't care because unless you've lived in both places, you
Yeah, you
don't
can't
know,
say shit.
respectfully. New York is far more serious.
Hmm.
And what I mean by serious is the work ethic, the
Yep.
mentality, the access to designer brands, the access to events. Think of New York Fashion Week and LA Fashion Week. No
LA Fashion
shade,
Week is a joke. It is a joke.
no shade, no shade. It simply is, right? It's just an observation. Um, I knew that if I wanted any sort of career, and this is not to say that people who are born and raised in Los Angeles who now have booming, blossoming careers, specifically we'll talk celebrity styling because that's what that market caters to, that they're not successful, that they're not legitimate, because they are. For me, I didn't know I wanted to do celebrity styling initially. I just knew I wanted to do wardrobe and maybe a little red carpet, but private client. I wanted to do everything and I wanted to see what worked best for me. I chose New York because I knew it was this no bullshit mentality. And even though I'm born and raised in the South and I consider myself down to earth and quite authentic, I like that mentality and that's how I work. Best is kind of this just like what you see is what you get. And that was very much New York and it still is. And ultimately, I felt like I wasn't really getting to the next level in New York. I felt like I was doing the same jobs. It was becoming a little bit more saturated. And I was curious about celebrity styling. I had done a little bit of it in New York because there are celebrities who live there. There are red carpets, there are events. But certainly you don't have the TV and film industry. You don't have these big houses and um, like lots that you have in Southern California. So I moved after I felt like my time was up in New York. I moved to LA and I exclusively did that for 3.5, 4 years until I realized this will probably actually kill me if I continue down this path. And um, there's politics, there's red tape. I've talked about this many times before of how exploitative the fashion industry is, specifically celebrity styling, and abusive. It's incredibly
Oh, yeah.
emotionally abusive, and I say that as a heteronormative cisgendered white woman who's privileged. And that was my experience, and I was abused in certain circumstances. So um that's ultimately why I chose New York over LA. I was curious about LA and I did it and then I still was like, yeah, this isn't for me. But you know what? I'm truly grateful for all the experiences that allowed me to advocate for myself, to be in incredible rooms, to be with people who are no longer even with us anymore. To meet Catherine O'Hara, rest in peace, she just passed away recently. Just to be around like true icons between both New York and Los Angeles, and be around really serious fashion people who live and breathe it. And I think for that, I'm really truly grateful, because that's really um, shaped my perspective on the industry and, you know, what I hope to deliver my private clients.
Yeah. Um, I know there's like this saying, and I'm gonna butcher it, but it's basically like LA is a company town. So everybody in LA works in entertainment or some offshoot of entertainment or to support the entertainment industry. Everyone in New York has a different job. So you have bankers, you have finance, you have fashion, you have entertainment, you have literally anything you can ever think of, tech, whatever, is in New York. And so that's why it feels so different, because everyone does the same job. So LA immediately turns into high school. Like dating in LA is like high school. Friendships in LA are like high school. It's a high school all over again because it's actually so small. And it's all about who you know. But if you randomly meet somebody in New York and you work in fashion and they work in banking, they're not going to give a shit. Like whatever. They just want to hang out, you know, or be friends. They're not looking for what can I get from you. And like that, what can I get from you was really hard for me in LA, to the point where I just stopped trying to date. I just stopped trying to make new friends. I only hung out with kids from North Carolina, which is like insane. I would go to the UNC Alumni Association, like meetups. I didn't even go to UNC, but I would meet, you know, people from here. But that was really hard for me. And I chose LA because it was as far away as I could get from my family. And now at 38, I'm like, I just want a year in New York. A year in New York, like give it to me. I want to do it. I would meet so many people. But yeah, like again, it's not like a fashion thing unless you're solely working in entertainment. LA is not it. And LA Fashion Week is a joke. I think it used to be cool and then it progressively got worse. And if it's even still a thing, then God bless it.
Yes to all of that. I think I think in a way, LA doesn't receive enough shit. Like,
Yeah.
LA doesn't receive enough flack. And you know what? It's unfortunately, it's tainted by the TV and film industry, which is not necessarily sunshine and rainbows. You also have, and I'm sure this was different before I even got there, but you have this rise of the influencer, which now is like an everyday name. You have these super, super powerful, wealthy celebrities that are famous, super, super famous. And I think people specifically in LA are just chasing on the coattails of whomever. Um, with that being said, there are still some really dope people in Southern California. There are very talented people, people born and raised there, not necessarily the transplants, but there are a lot of people doing really cool things for LA. Um, but it's a totally different ecosystem. I think the energy, just being there, the energy is very different from New York. It's also a very spread out city. So for me, like if you look at it from a cultural lens, like it's very segregated. And that's something I disliked about it, where you have different races living in different pockets. Whereas New York, you see, you hear, you smell, you experience so many different cultures. And I think there's beauty in that. Um, and yeah, overall, LA is just, it is what it is, right? Like it serves its purpose for the TV and film industry and for all of that, but it's quite the beast, and I had had enough.
I like you're saying all this. I'm like, yeah, it's typical like New York versus LA. And I know we all try to get rid of it, but like, I'm like, yeah, she chose New York first. Then she moved to LA and she was like, what is this? what is this? I mean, I loved LA. I was there for 7 years. I would move back tomorrow if I still could afford it. But it doesn't mean it's perfect either. And like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you experience this at all, but having like a Southern work ethic and really hardworking parents, I go to LA and like I'm up against jobs and at internships with girls that had never had a job in their life. Their parents worked at, some movie studio and they went to USC and were in a sorority. So they got the job over me. And then I would hear they got fired and then they would call me back and be like, hey, can you come work here? And I don't know. I just always got ahead because my work ethic was different and it was real. And it's because I just wasn't some spoiled rich girl who was like, I'm checking a box. And that is not everybody that lives there at all. I have so many friends that are native Angelinos and they are the hardest working people and so smart and so brilliant and wonderful. But it's just that entertainment ecosystem a lot of the time where you get by on who you know, you get by on looks, you get by because you're skinny and blonde, and I was not skinny and blonde. And so it was harder for me, but
Okay.
I worked my ass off and I accomplished a lot of things. But what could it have looked like had I been born and raised there and my dad was a studio executive and I was a skinny blonde girl?
Probably limitless opportunities. I mean,
Yeah.
and nepotism is everywhere, right? You think of these high executives or actors and their children now in their teens and 20s have booming, blossoming careers. That's everywhere, right? But specifically in LA, it that industry, living there breeds that. It's all about the image and how you're portrayed and how you're portraying yourself and how you're perceived. And it's a little inauthentic. Um yeah, I mean, I could say a whole lot about that of
Yeah,
just
it'll be a whole other podcast
peers.
episode of us telling all of our stories of when we got fucked over because someone's daughter wanted to do something. Okay, so one question. So I want you to go on a rant, and then we're gonna go into like tips and tricks for the girlies who maybe can't afford a stylist. So you hate when sales associates are called stylists. And I do too. And I also hate that everyone is a model. So go off,
Oh,
girl. Tell us why you hate the stylist. Because I think I know why, but I want to hear the expert opinion.
this has always bothered me. And as someone who held a former position as a stylist, which was a glorified sales associate role, certainly are you styling the client in the clothing of that retailer? Yes. That's established. For me, it completely discounts and disregards the time, the energy, the education, the lived experiences that I have as a stylist who was intentional about this, um, by slapping a name on a title. You're not a stylist. You're simply putting clothing on clients with one retail brand. My definition of a stylist, my philosophy is not shopping at just one store. Respectfully, not even a mono-brand store. Like think of a Saks and Neiman, a Bloomie's, Bergdorf's. Certainly, that's a whole different ecosystem of having different brands to pull from. But what makes styling so unique, and you can go back to the famous quote, money does not buy you taste. It certainly doesn't buy you a sense of style either. I love meeting a client where they are and mixing and matching what they have in their wardrobe, introducing them to new brands, new fits, new silhouettes. It doesn't matter what your budget is. You could shop only on Amazon. You could shop at Bergdorf Goodman. You could do custom couture. It really doesn't matter. It's simply like your sense of style and how you're wearing it and how it makes you feel. But by calling a sales associate a stylist, I find it quite offensive because you're not. Like you don't have the training. You may have the eye. I will say that you may have the talent, but you do not have the training. You do not really have the lived experience of a stylist. And I think for so many years, stylists are kind of, I'd say A, they're underrated. We're underrated, but B, we're misunderstood. And I think a lot of people who enter the styling world are misunderstood kids or teens at their core, where we're using clothing as a form of self-expression. And there's this ability to kind of take your natural gift and share it with the world and make other people feel good about their clothing, because you do hold yourself differently when you're in a great outfit or in a color that really like lights you up. And I think when you call yourself a stylist, and it's not the sales associates or the stylist fault, it's the companies
Yeah.
that branded this. I don't know, 15 or so years ago. It's not right. And it really boils my blood, because I do think, and the stylists above me and before me who have come before me paved the way to make this a freaking job. Like, this was unheard of many, many years ago. And I just think it just completely discounts and disregards the literal origin of being a stylist and actually what we do. And perhaps that's what's missing, is the educational aspect of truly knowing what a stylist does, because it's really not necessarily all about the clothing. It's about embodying feelings and how you view yourself and viewing your
And
worth. Like, there's a lot of
storytelling.
storytelling. Yeah, there's a lot of psychology behind it. So um that's not in any longer. They're not stylists.
I love it. Well, I hate that like everyone is a model, like, and I don't care, I'll call it out. So here in Raleigh, we have this thing called Models for Charity, and it's a bunch of divorced moms, random people who want to be models, and then they go and they do these like fashion shows at like random events for charity. I don't understand it. I've tried to understand it. A lot of my friends are actually models through it, and I'm just like, you're not a model. But you're not a model. And I'm not saying anyone looks bad. I'm not saying it's because anyone's size or whatever. Like, you have not trained to be a model. You just walking down a runway at a pet store does not equal a model. So let's just stop calling it that. People have worked and trained and like made this a profession. Stop just calling yourself a effing model. Sorry.
That's so interesting. I had never heard of that, so I will look into it. I
Well,
think
you don't have
something
to. You don't have to.
I think something that would be interesting and perhaps beneficial would be having a real stylist and having a real runway model come into these scenes, these scenarios, and showing, like, passing the torch. Like, let me show you, maybe not
Yeah.
even passing the torch, but like learn from an expert. Like, I'll give you what I learned, and you take that, and then you can wear that title a little bit more proudly. Same
So
thing, like,
education, training. Yeah.
yeah. And just
Yeah.
experience being around someone who's actually worked hard to receive that title.
Yeah, exactly. Because, like, I don't know. I feel like you get this. We've been around the block. We've met real professionals who are making a lot of money and they've dedicated their whole life to this. Let's stop just calling the random girls at Anthro stylists. Let's stop calling these random people at the fucking pet store. Because I feel like they did a fashion show in a pet store. I'm like, what? But
That's
like, let's
funny.
stop calling these people models. Like, no. Okay. Now I'll stop complaining. But I would love to hear from you just like some tips that you would have for everyday people to kind of like elevate their look or, shop their own closets or any kind of styling tips you would have for just a general person that is like not overwhelming.
Mm. I always start the process with a style questionnaire where we get really in depth on like the psychology of what you're hoping to achieve with a stylist. Certainly, you can start there as well with, what is it that you hope to walk away with? What is it that you want to embody? Or what type of woman are you right now? Are you a career woman? Are you postpartum? Are you single? Um, and I think getting clear on what you want your wardrobe to reflect, and does it mirror your current lifestyle, is probably the most important place to start. Secondly, would be a closet edit. And this is like where the skeletons are exposed from the closet. And a lot of this is rooted in, what do you have in your closet that you're no longer wearing or that's no longer serving you? Think of clothes from college. If you're in your 30s or your 40s, what do you have that's still lingering in there that might not be the right fit, the right silhouette? Could be clothing that needs to be mended or tossed out altogether. Same thing with colors. Maybe you got a color analysis done or you're interested and you feel like what's reflected in your closet is not current or accurate given your coloring. And then once you have like a good grip on like who you are, what you're working towards, perhaps getting a little bit of a clean slate in the closet, I always say that's kind of the time for a shop. You could shop at a thrift store. You could shop online. You could shop with a stylist. There are so many different avenues that you can utilize that are cost effective and budget friendly without investing in a stylist. And when I say the shopping portion of that, I always find it really helpful for clients if they already have a Pinterest board or have some idea of what they're looking to integrate in their wardrobes. I also say try stuff on. Do not just go into a store and buy it. You really have to try it on. Have a friend who's objective go with you and offer real consultation, real feedback, because that'll save you money. And also, some return policies are not super friendly. And then lastly, it's about building the outfit, the actual portion of style, of making sure the proportions are right for your body type, accessorizing, but doing it with taste, not over accessorizing. I think starting there really paves the foundation for, getting to know yourself better and how you dress, and also shopping habits, shopping behaviors when you're shopping, how often you're shopping, where. I think just getting clear on how you are before getting started can kind of help guide you.
Yeah. So, few things. One, just to get out of my head, I feel like you need to do a whole vertical that's like postpartum styling, because I can only imagine, these women, their bodies have changed. They've literally grew an organ, they grew a person, and then their bodies going back together. They probably don't have the most confidence in the world. Like, oh my God, you could come in and just make them feel like a superstar. So
Mhm.
put that put that as a vertical. But also, like, I love that you're saying, you don't have to go to Bergdorf's and spend millions of dollars on a whole new wardrobe. You can find quality stuff anywhere,
Mhm.
and things that match you and your goals. But I think the biggest thing is going in with a plan, because otherwise it's like going to the grocery store hungry. You're just going to buy anything, and then you're going to get it home and nothing looks right. And you're like, what the fuck did I do? I got to take it back. Or some people, I'm fine with returning stuff, but I know a lot of people aren't. So it's going to sit with tags on
Mhm.
it for 100 years in their closet. So like, just go in with a plan and think, okay, what are some like basics that I can get? Or,
Mhm.
I don't know. Also,
Yeah.
just try not to fall for these crazy like trends. Like, everybody's doing
Yeah.
Y2K right now or whatever. I'm like, bitch, that's what I wore in middle school. I'm not buying it.
Yeah. I'm not either, for the record. And to give a little bit more insight into the plan, some other things that you can do while you're in your closet doing a closet edit, like a self-led closet edit, is what do you have a lot of and what do you have nothing of? Maybe you don't have a blazer. Maybe you don't have a winter coat, but you have 20 pairs of jeans. Maybe you don't have a pair of nice pants or a skirt. Um, Basically take an inventory of what you have, and let's say you get a little bit of inspiration from Pinterest, from these different wardrobing apps out there. Once you have a baseline of like an understanding of what you have, then you can make a plan, like literally like a shopping list, as similar to a grocery list of, okay, I need a basic white tee, I need a striped sweater. Like you can get really specific, or even maybe more broad of, I need going out tops, or I need more outfits for work in the office. And then I'd say like start with a broad overview, and then from there you can go in and try stuff on, and then kind of tailor it a little bit more the further you go, so as to not overwhelm yourself.
Yeah. And speaking of actual tailoring, I had a weight loss, and so I am 3 sizes different than I was, and I have so many quality pieces in my closet that are just sitting there, and I don't wanna donate them, I don't wanna sell them, I don't wanna give them away. I need to take them to get tailored. So, I know a big thing that people will always say, like, buy your blazer at H&M, but then take it to the tailor and get it fitted towards your body or whatever. So, do you advocate for that people like take things to their local tailor or buy low and get it altered to fit them?
Regardless of where you shop, regardless of what brands you have in your closet, I tailor everything if it needs to be tailored. That is probably the biggest takeaway from any stylist. Any stylist is going to tell you this. Very rarely does clothing fit people off the rack. If it does, consider yourself lucky. But to have an item tailored could be jeans, it could be a sweater, it could be a jacket, it could be you could be on a weight loss journey, it could be postpartum. There are so many different elements for we as women. We shape shift constantly. We're always fluctuating. My biggest piece of advice is to tailor stuff, because it will take your outfit from being like such a flaw to something super custom and specific to your body type and your weight and your frame and your silhouette. And I think it's probably the single most important investment that you'll make for your wardrobe. Again, it could be an H&M blazer, it could be a Prada blazer. But if it doesn't fit you right, it doesn't matter what the brand is at the end of the day.
And so, what are things that people can get tailored? Like you said, sweaters. I'm like, you can get a sweater tailored. Like, what should we be grabbing out of our closet?
You should tailor everything.
Okay.
Specifically pants. Pants are big because of height and tapering around the ankle, depending on what the pant is. You should tailor jackets such as like blazers or any sort of business, casual business, formal um, part of your wardrobe. I also will tailor tops if they need to be. Think of sleeve length and where it hits your wrist. Jackets is another big one. You could literally tailor everything. And in the same breadth of tailoring, I would also say upkeep and maintenance of footwear. Finding a good cobbler or footwear specialist is also super important. They can resole shoes, they can stretch them out for you if you have some pain in your feet. They can do so much stuff, buff and shine. Um, it kind of goes hand in hand of just mending and upkeeping your clothes and like caring for them and not shrinking them in your dryer, but hand washing your sweaters and letting them dry over towels versus hanging and letting them grow or stretch. Really is another way to just extend the lifespan of your clothing in your wardrobe.
Yeah, you don't wanna come to my house then because the shoes are falling apart. Um, Everything gets washed together, and it's how it comes out is how the Lord wanted it to because it is what
Custom.
it is. Yeah, exactly. I shrink all of Jeremy's sweaters, and he fusses at me. I'm like, "That's on you. Wash your own clothes."
Touche.
So,
Touche.
anyway, okay. Well, we'll wrap this up. What do you want to leave us with? Do you I know you've already given some good advice, but you want to leave us with just like one thing of advice. Also, do you have like an unhinged story you want to tell us? And then you can tell us where to find you on the internet.
Oh my gosh, going out with a bang. Um, okay, what would I like to leave with you guys? styling is such an important part of, like you said, storytelling, of how people perceive you, of what you're giving off before people even really see you. The impressions are made in split seconds, in a mere matter of seconds before an introduction or what have you. So obviously, when and if you can hire a stylist, even if you do it once, I truly think you will gain such a different perspective and so much knowledge on yourself, on what you value, on your wardrobe, and wherever that finds you in your current life stage. Additionally, color consulting is a really nice introduction to personal styling to determine what colors just light you up as opposed to drain you. Do I have an unhinged story that I can share?
I'm sure there was some kind of a styling emergency in LA.
I've signed a lot of
I
non-disclosures in
know.
my time.
I know.
I've
Same.
also not signed a lot and thought I should have signed a lot. Okay, I'll say this. Because this popped into my mind because it was truly traumatic, and I just saw this actress in a popular Netflix series that I'm watching currently. I was surprised to see her in the show because she was not in the show in the previous seasons. She looks great, by the way. Great costuming. The costume designer for this show is iconic. We were getting this client ready for some event. I can't remember. I'll have to go back in my journal entry for this one. But she was having an episode. I don't think she liked the hair and makeup, and instead she was taking it out on me. There was an issue with the bra, and this was several years ago, but I think she didn't like the boob tape or the bra that I had brought, and all hell broke loose. At the end of the day, this story and what I just said about personal styling and how you feel in your own clothing, it's not that serious. It really isn't. Clothing and fashion and personal styling is fun, it's expressive, it should empower you, and I think sometimes that the plot is lost in Hollywood, in really serious high fashion environments, in the TV and film industry, and whatever event that client was going to. And I would just say have fun with it at the end of the day, because it's a fun thing. And you can find me at emilyburnette.com and on Instagram at Emily Burnette Stylist, as well as TikTok at Emily Burnette Stylist. And in the meantime, I will be thinking of some more unhinged stories.
You can come back on, girl. We can have, I feel like I need to get you and all my other ex-LA, ex-entertainment people on, and we can just trauma dump together. Because, yeah, I mean, even just hearing that, and we'll wrap up, but I'm like, oh, yeah. One, she was stressed out of her hair and makeup, so she took it out on you. But two, in her mind, she had probably convinced herself, I'm going to end up on a worst dressed list. And when you have that kind of pressure, it does not help anybody at all.
Yeah.
And that's
Hollywood.
showbiz, baby.
Nailed
Cool.
it.
Well, thank you for coming on, Emily. I love you so much. And check the show notes for all of her links, y'all.
Bye.
How freaking awesome and cute and badass is Emily? I just love her so much. If you're watching this on YouTube or on Spotify, you will see I'm in my new office. This is so exciting. We are going to be building out a podcast studio in here, but for the time being, it's just me on my computer and a blank wall. So I look a little washed out, but it's okay. Look, build messy, build messy, build in public. So that's what we're doing. I love the support that we're getting for the podcast. You guys are awesome. Thank you for supporting us and keeping us going. We're a little delayed in getting the episodes out, but we're doing the best we can. Right now, my main priority is getting my clients booked on podcasts. It's not necessarily getting my podcast out, but we're working on it. Thank you, Jeremy, for all of your diligent work. If you need a podcast producer, please contact Jeremy at Airwave Arcade. His information is in the show notes. If you want to get on podcasts, hit me up. I got you. $750 a month. We have a podcast pitching retainer where we will get you on 5 to 15 podcasts a month, and we'll keep you booked and busy and get you paid. So hit us up, like and subscribe, share it with a friend, use Emily as your stylist, use me as your publicist, and use Jeremy as your podcast producer. Okay, love you. We'll see you later. Like and subscribe to my podcast. It's Unhinged. Dun, dun, dun.